Did you know your local government is obligating you to millions, in some cases billions of dollars in future debt, and you have no say in the matter? How is this possible? Listen to former State Controller Kathleen Connell.
Many people think that they get to vote on every issuance of bond in California, and I need to educate them that that's simply not true. There's a large proportion of debt sold in California known as either lease bonds or lease revenue bonds or certificates of participation. For those of us in financial circles, those are known as COPs, and those are increasingly common.
But isn't there a law that the voters have the right to approve future long-term indebtedness and to know what it'll be used for? According to John Coupal of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, you're supposed to. It's in the state constitution. Twice.
There were voter approval requirements in the original Constitution of California of 1879. In fact, the two-thirds vote requirement for local general obligation bonds was in the original Constitution from the 1800s. Proposition 13 ratified and recognized that requirement and certainly beefed it up with respect to special taxes, but that requirement's been there for a long time.
But your local city council, your local school board, your local water district, county board of supervisors, and many other government entities have found a way around the law to avoid getting your approval to borrow money. Money you are obligated to repay with future taxes. As a former California Controller Kathleen Connell stated, these non-voter approved long-term bonds are called certificates of participation, otherwise known as COPs. Now here's Tony Patchett, a former district attorney, prosecutor of bond fraud in the LA Unified School District, explaining how they work.
COPs, as they are really generally known, are tax-free bonds that the LAUSD solicits, and they give these out through different investment firms. These tax-free bonds are then sold to the public. It's a way of circumventing Proposition 13 so that the voters do not have to approve monies that are spent for the construction. The Belmont Learning Complex was financed and constructed with COP funds.
And that's non-voter approved long-term public indebtedness.
That's correct.
According to LA School Board member David Tukovsky, it is necessary to bypass the will of the people by issuing these secret bonds, COPs, because the voters approved Proposition 13.
The only reason why COPs are emerging or have emerged in the public sector is because of the stranglehold of Proposition 13 on local government. So I go back.
Okay, so Prop 13 mandated voter approval, and by doing so restricted government agencies easy access to money. These agencies need more money to provide services to the local citizens. What's wrong with COP bonds?
The city taxpayers are on the hook for the next 25 or 30 years to repay those certificates. Now that looks like a bond to you, it looks like a bond to me, it looks like a bond to any normal person. But because they did not get voter approval, we now see local boards of supervisors, local city councils using COPs to get a lot of cash up front to pay off their political patronage friends and then stick future generations of taxpayers without any voter approval of this long-term financial obligation.
Well, they are voter approved. Indirectly. I mean, obviously, I vote for COPs and people vote for me.
So that has been the problem we've had with COPs and lease revenue bonds, is that these instruments of indebtedness have been created solely for the purpose of cutting out of the political process the very people who will be repaying it, and that's the California taxpayer.
How can this be? Both the California State Constitution and Proposition 13 specifically state that voters must approve propositions that incur long-term debt for taxpayers. How can municipal organizations get away with this blatant violation of state law?
Well, the law has been carefully crafted by those who have a vested interest in the process. And by those who have a vested interest, I mean those in local governments, the political elected officials, bureaucrats, and of course those involved in the bond business, the bond underwriters, the bond counsels, the bond marketers. they have a cottage industry and they get a lot of money out of it. The last thing they want is some voter approval process to screw it up. So they have carefully created the law, and there have been some cases that have said that these lease revenue arrangements are not general obligation bonds and therefore do not require voter approval under the provisions of the California Constitution. Now, those involved in the industry are very careful not to litigate those issues that they might lose. They will litigate those issues that they will win, so there'll be a published court decision that's in their favor, and they have slowly been moving the California case law in a direction that recognizes the legitimacy of these bond instruments that would otherwise be characterized as illegitimate under common sense.
Mr. Tarkovsky feels it is perfectly fine to bypass the voters by issuing COPs for any and all pet projects of the LA Unified School District simply because no one has stepped in to stop them or the school board.
Absent somebody challenging, and I know clearly we have a great organization, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. They haven't challenged LA Unified's issuance of COPs. No private entity or private attorney general or other government entity has challenged our use of COPs.
So we asked Mr. John Kupal of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association if he would take on the LAUSD or any other government organization and step in to protect the taxpayers who are being forced to pay for these secret bonds.
I think it would be something we would consider doing. I mean, we have always looked at COPs as a potential area for litigation because we believe, certainly in spirit, they violate the voter approval requirements mandated by the California Constitution.
We want to hear from you on this issue. Please participate in our survey by answering the following questions. Have you ever heard of these secret bonds called COPs before you watched this video blog? Yes or no? Have the voters in your community ever voted against a bond for a project that you did not approve of, only to find out that your government went ahead and issued COPs to pay for it against your wishes? Tell us yes or no. Do you think this practice of government issuing secret bonds, COPs, should be stopped? Please vote in our survey and please post your comments. The video clips used today for this blog can be found in full-length programs of full disclosure interviews. If you would like to watch the full programs, please let us know and we'll tell you where you can find them.
Do you want to see all the revealing information on this program that the mainstream media won't tell you? You can view this entire program on your cable system. Visit our homepage and click on the channel guide to locate your channel and airtimes by community. Or you can purchase the full programs on DVD, VHS, transcripts, or audio tapes by visiting our media store.